This is Pace the Nation.
When you climb up that hill, well, eventually you'll come down. If the wind's at your back, you never wear a frown. You're waiting on that second wind to begin to kick in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Pace the Nation, broadcasting back here at Studio 1A in downtown Arlington, Virginia. We are in the heart of the universe. Of course, that is Clarendon, back again for episode 268. 268. I'm your host, Chris Farley. Alongside me, still virtually, it's my wife, Julie Culley. Julie, what's up?
You know, I may be the one that takes a long time to get ready and get on this recording, but I've got much better lighting than you. You've got
way
this
better.
like
I know. We got to work on this.
sunshine coming
know.
through. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, we've
I
got
know.
some good energy with spring coming around, but we're
Yeah.
gonna have to work on that.
Yeah, we got to work on this because we are going to promote our YouTube feed more and more as we go. And you can see the cardboard cutout of my face way better than you
That's
can
the
see my
most
actual face.
important part
Yeah.
of the visual.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to work on. There's no shades in here in Studio 1A, so I was messing around with it beforehand,
I'm
but
not sure if there's any air in there either.
no,
It's a lot of ventilation,
there
light,
isn't. Well,
shade.
sound quality is what I care about. Now we're going to have to definitely work on the video quality. We will do that. I promise. And we will get you in studio. I think
One
those
day.
will be when the video quality gets better in here, we'll get you in studio. So that'll happen soon. I promise. I've threatened it for a while, but it will happen soon.
It's what people call squad goals.
Squad goals. Yes. You and I squad goals. All right. Well, we are recording on a Monday, so a little late today, Julie. A big episode, a big show to get to. Really exciting. We got multiple guests, and we'll get into that in a second. But we're a little late in recording this week because you were traveling, I was traveling, and it's just, it doesn't stop at the Farley Culley household. Just doesn't stop with the traveling. And we had an exciting event happen to us last week that I wanted to share with the audience. Exciting / scary when you were where were you? I can't even keep track. You were in Seattle, then I was in Seattle. Where were you?
This was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Last week you were in Seattle at Brooks.
Yep.
The week before I was in Santa Barbara with the Empower Run Industry Women's event.
Yep.
And the week before that I was in Spokane for the US Indoor Championship.
Right.
So
I think you were in a power run at the time. And we have a 7-month-old at home. And we do have a nanny who's with us, but I was doing all the heavy lifting. I'm patting myself on the back here.
there we go. It's my favorite part of the show.
Taking care of the kids.
Mhm.
But our youngest had this cough,
Mhm.
and many of the parents out there know the cough that's that ended up being croup,
Mhm.
cough / wheezing, and had a hard time breathing. And it was about 8 or 9 o'clock. And I'm like, this doesn't sound very good, but he's okay.
That was about the point in the day that you started paying attention to the children, which was 8 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was the first time you noticed.
So fast forward to 10 o'clock and the wheezing is getting worse. And I said, you know what? I'm not messing around with this. We're going to the emergency room. So I told our nanny, I said, hey, I'm out of here. You're going to have to watch the 2 older kids. They're asleep. They were asleep. So I got to get props for that. It was 10 something and they were
Way
asleep.
to
go. So we race off to the emergency room. And I had this moment where I was like, do I call Julie? It's about 7 o'clock her time. She's probably at a networking dinner having a great time. Do I call her and let her know that I'm on my way to the ER?
Is this story about our son being sick going to the ER, or is this just a pathway towards let me make everyone really understand who the true hero of the family is?
Well,
we'll see how the outcome is. Let's go. Keep going.
I'm controlling the narrative. I mean, obviously everything was everything ended up being okay, or that I wouldn't, be kind of laughing and joking about this. Take him to the ER. He has croup, which is pretty typical. They gave him a little bit of an inhaler, and he was pretty much fine by the time midnight rolled around. So I decided not to call you. And we were at the emergency room, and I'm thinking, all right, he's feeling good, looking good. Let's roll out of here. But unfortunately, they had to wait for the pediatrician to come in at 6 a.m. So from 10 o'clock till 6, I'm at Arlington Hospital, and they took great care of me. They were great, but I just couldn't leave. So
Well, you had your option was to take an ambulance to the actual
Inova,
children's hospital,
right?
which would have
Fairfax,
cost like, I don't know, 2-3 grand.
right? Mm-hmm.
And so you guys just ended up sleeping there all night. We found out after the fact that like this is actually fairly typical. I have a best friend who's an ER pediatrician, so I probably should have asked her this in one of our conversations in life, but
Sure.
most hospitals don't have a pediatrician in the ER round the clock.
Yep.
And so they really encourage you to go to the children's hospital. Anyway, that's just a public service announcement for anyone who's listening that does have small children. Either call ahead if you have the opportunity to, if it's not, an emergency, or just try to find the nearest children's hospital. Because if you're Chris Farley, then you get to like really blow up this story and exaggerate it even bigger.
Yeah.
You're like, I was in the ER all night long.
Yep.
All night.
I was.
When really
Yep.
our son, you had the opportunity to probably bring him to the pediatrician earlier that day. Probably a little too busy with work. Probably didn't really pay attention to
I
his
had to get my
breathing
run
until
in.
about 9 o'clock
I
at
had
night.
to get my run in.
Yeah. And then you're like,
sure.
this doesn't sound right. I'm going to take him to the ER.
Well, he ended up being fine. You called me in the
God.
morning. I actually thought you were going to jump on the next flight home, but you were like, all right, if he's fine, you're fine. I've
He
got
got
some
a
work to do here.
steroid. He
Yeah,
was seen by
he
a
was fine.
doctor. He's
So,
okay.
so
I mean,
anyways,
that's firstborn versus thirdborn too.
right.
So
Correct.
I
Yeah.
would have been, and you probably would have called me in the middle of the night with the firstborn, but
Right. No, thirdborn, poor Julian.
now,
Anyways, he was
now
just
I come
fine.
home and now I come back from that trip and I'm like, how's everybody doing? And that's when you really lay it on of like, what a great dad you are. And I
Oh
even
yeah.
protected you and I knew you would want to come home. So I didn't tell you. And so I've got plans Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. You're fine with it, right?
Correct. Well, I needed my points for what
Yeah.
I did. So
Well, you did. You got some points.
all right. Well, I just wanted to share that story. It was an interesting story, and there was some back patting there, I admit, but everybody's fine. It ended up being fine. Julian's fine, most importantly, and everybody. You had a great trip and Empower Run. We'll touch on that after our guests, but I do want to get to our guests. Really excited. We got multiple guests today. Good friends of yours, actually, Julie. Molly Huddle and Sara Slattery. They just wrote a book. The book is How She Did It: Stories, Advice, and Secrets to Success from 50 Legendary Distance Runners. You can get that book wherever books are sold. We've had Molly on the podcast before. We had not have the pleasure of having Sara, but they're going to talk about their book. Molly's pregnant. We'll talk about kids. Sara's got 2 kids. So we'll easily transition from what we talked about to them. So a lot to get into with our next guests, authors, Molly Huddle, Sara Slattery. Join us next here on Pace the Nation.
Pace the Nation is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
All right, welcome back to the program. And now, Julie, we are excited to be joined via the StreamYard by authors Molly Huddle and Sara Slattery. And let me set them up real quick. Molly Huddle is a professional runner for Saucony, a 2-time Olympian. She was 11th in 2012 at the Olympics in the 5K, 6th in the 10K at 2016. She's also a national champion 28 times. Sara is the track coach and cross country coach at Grand Canyon University. She's a two-time NCAA champ in track while attending Colorado. Sara, Molly, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Did I set you up okay? Was that I
You
mean I didn't.
overlooked Sarah's
I
whole
know. I'm
professional
sorry.
running career.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? We're kind of short on time. The accolades are so long. I just, I cut it down. Wikipedia needs to sum up your stuff a little better, Sara, just in my opinion. So whoever's in the Wikipedia world, if they could help
We'll
out
get
with that, that'd be
Steve
great.
on it.
Yeah.
Get your husband Steve to get that updated.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. The book is How She Did It: Stories, Advice, and Secrets to Success from 50 Legendary Distance Runners. We're going to talk a lot about the book. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Molly's been on the show before. Sara has not. Molly's pregnant. Sara has 2 kids. Julie and I were just talking about going to the ER. So before we get into the book, I was patting myself on the back because I saved our kid, went to the ER. Have you ever been to the ER with either your kids, Sara?
Oh, the first time, yes, both kids have been to the ER.
Both. Okay.
So the first one was actually the first season I was coaching, and it was one of the first trips away, and my mom was watching them, and my daughter Culley was like less than a year old, or no, she was a little over a year but couldn't talk, and she had to go to the ER with a scorpion bite, and they didn't know what it was, and or a scorpion sting, and they ended up having to give her the anti-venom. As soon as they gave it to her, well, Steve was also at work at the time, so I was on, like Julie first. It was actually second child, but they're only 2 years apart, and I was ready to get on the plane and head home because they didn't. Her eyes rolling in the back of her head, and like it's all neurological.
Oh, God.
What was going on? And we were in McAllen, Texas, so not an easy place to get to or fly out of. So I was a little bit freaking out, but they gave her the anti-venom. As soon as they gave it to her, she was like, "Bug bite me."
So you'll have to listen back to the podcast, but I just talked about a story where I took our youngest, Julie was out of town, to the ER for croup. I mean, it's pretty minor, little steroid, and he was fine. So Molly, that's what you have to look forward to as you are how many weeks pregnant?
35. So yeah, about a month, I guess.
About a month away.
A little over a month. So
Wow.
I know the anxiety, I already have anxiety. How can it be? The parent anxiety will double it.
Well,
Chris is really helping you out here.
Yeah,
He's
I know,
going to tell you all the horror stories of taking your children to ERs, and you're like, I just want to have the baby.
So and Julie and Molly have been good friends for a while, and Sara have been good friends for a while. So we know Molly doesn't complain. So give me some complaining about pregnancy. Got to be something,
Well,
please.
I don't complain, but Julie knows my anxiety with my my security fears, etc.
Right.
When we were training together in Arizona. But complaining, yeah, I guess I'm like pretty out of breath at this point. So I'll try not to like heavy breathe into the mic, but sometimes I'll be talking or just like walking upstairs and I'll be like, oh, this is hard.
So you can follow them both. Your Instagram handles are easy. They're just your names, Molly Huddle and @Sara Slattery. I've really enjoyed your video, and you are like an influencer, Molly. I mean, I've enjoyed your videos as you've been pregnant. Like you'll do some workout and you'll get 55,000 views. I am so jealous. So you've continued to work out throughout this pregnancy, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of like messages from women who are like, "Oh, like I'm really interested to see what you're doing, but I am not by any means giving advice. I just thought it would be cool for people to see what we do because there isn't much information on like training through pregnancy on the elite side or for any woman really, but I think more women are like talking about how healthy pregnancies are like possible and you don't have to give up the sport you like, you just modify everything. So I was like, "Oh, we'll just try and give people a peek into the journey, even if it's by now the running is going to be much less, but that's kind of part of it." So
are you doing any running right now?
Very little. Like I'm more elliptic going.
Okay.
But I did do a run yesterday that felt okay. So I think if I don't go every day, I can do it. So that's kind of my plan. We'll see how long it lasts the next few weeks.
And Sara, you're a coach, obviously, been a coach for a while. What role does running play for you personally now in your life?
I still run almost every day, but more for like mental
You
clarity.
seen how fit she is? I mean, Sara Slattery,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, rocking and rolling. I'd be
Yeah.
be shocked if you don't see her crushing a marathon sometime soon.
I do more lifting though. I lift more than I run a decent, probably equally, but yeah, I don't, I, after writing this book, I got really I'm motivated seeing all these women later in their careers, and I still haven't run a marathon, so maybe that I will.
Well,
do
so
it.
one of your recent posts, Sara, really, and it's at Sara Slattery on Instagram, resonated with me. Talking about an addictive personality. I certainly have one. So you must have an addictive personality. So you're working out, and that's a big part of your life.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, like if I don't get that, just even if it's like 30 minutes or something in during the day, like it calms me. I think, yeah, addiction in my family, there's addiction in my family. And I think also I've talked to a lot of people like just about our generation versus the generation before us and other generations where they really they didn't have those outlets or weren't encouraged for those things. It was more you kind of hid your feelings or hid those things in um, not so productive addictions like tobacco or like
Right.
smoke, drinking, hiding your feelings and those things. So I'm grateful that we have sport, and like I was able to be in sports and have exercise as a way to get that out and
Right.
in a productive manner rather than drink my sorrows away or
Right.
my
Right.
anxiety.
All right. So the three of you, I want the three of you guys to connect the dots here for me. You guys are all connected, obviously, through running. You guys are all elite professional runners, sort of the same age ish. How were you three connected? Did you train together? Where did you guys first meet?
Well, I think all three of us, it's Arizona, training in the winter in Arizona,
Mhm.
but meets too, right? Probably we all met as runners
As
and maybe like
Competitors,
I
teammates.
roommates.
actually
Yeah.
met Julie for the first time in
Mm.
Mammoth Lakes. Like she came out, I was a part of the Mammoth Track Club, and Julie was training with Centrowitz, and
Hmm.
he had her go out there to do a training block, and so she came and did all of our lifting with us and hung out with our team most of the time she was up there. And we became like good friends then. And then, yeah. And then we ended up, like, I grew up in Arizona, and we'd always do winter training blocks out here when we were living in Colorado. And so then when we were out here in Arizona, we would meet up with Julie was coming out here for training stints, and then Molly was too. So we'd always try to get everyone together for some
So
social,
fun.
yeah, social
Yeah.
runs and social gatherings.
And I assume you met a lot of women like Julie along the way, and that's kind of how the idea for the book was sparked, or how was where'd you come up with the idea for the book?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the women in the book we did train with or cross paths with like more than just race day. Like, we got to, a lot of them we know because we focused on athletes of this current era. So I don't know, I came away from a lot of my racing career being like, wow, like some of these women are amazing, or the groups that I was like training with a little bit in Arizona, the group I had here in Providence, I just felt like more like they helped me so much as an athlete coming out of college, and like that's what we wanted to pass on. We were like, wow, they're great role models. Like
Hmm.
they don't all get the interviews, and they don't like Kim Smith. You wouldn't see her,
Right.
on your giving an interview or a speech about it, but she has
We've
a
tried to
great,
track her down for the
yeah.
podcast for years. She would never do it. Right.
But she
Correct.
has so much good stuff to say. So
Right.
yeah, we wanted to kind of harness that.
And Sara, did you go to Molly and say we should do a book, or how did the idea of the book come up?
I think mainly like we had just like sport had been so powerful for both of us. I think Julie as well, like where it there was um, we were able, there had been a lot of stories that had been coming out where sport hadn't been so powerful or had put in a negative light, and a lot of girls we had seen from our generation that were really good in high school not really make it through to college and beyond and have those long careers. And we saw a lot of really talented girls get out of the sport early. And so Molly and I, we had so many examples of women that had long and healthy careers, and we wanted to we're like, that isn't always the case. And we want to arm, there's so many girls that are getting out of the sport early that we think could continue to improve and get better. And we want to give them examples of, one, give them knowledge to be able to have that long career, but also examples of women that have been able to take on those hurdles that they face and come out the other side stronger and continue in the sport and find, whether it be in their careers or beyond running, like taking the things that they learn from running and getting having it be a powerful part of their life.
So you guys are around 40. You're all around 40 years old. Were there points where, throughout your maybe high school, collegiate, professional careers where you didn't feel the support because you're a female runner, where a male runner might have had more support?
I feel like it was so normalized. I didn't really notice, but just like
Mhm.
all my coaches were men always. I think I had one high school basketball coach that was a woman, and I was like, this is odd. Like, so like just, I think maybe having more female coaches would have made it easier to talk about things like your period or like eating, like low energy availability and things like that. Not to say there aren't great male coaches, and not that every female coach would nail that, but I just think that's one of the subtle ways that I didn't even really think about until I got to this point, and I was like, oh, there's really not a lot of leadership like that are in the sport that are women. So that's kind of something I noticed later.
And do you think that's changed? Do you think we are at a different place? Julie was coaching at Georgetown, Sara, finishing up her career as a coach at Grand Canyon. Is it different now than when you guys were growing up?
What do you ladies think? I feel like you're still beacons. Like there still needs to be more.
Yeah, I think the I think coaches are more knowledgeable now, and they're talking about those things a lot more than they ever did when I was an athlete. Like just seeing it on the coaching end. I'm also a female coach, but we talk about it all the time with my athletes. But and I think even in male situations, it's recognized and it's talked about more than I would never go talk to Coach Wetmore about my period when I was training at Colorado. But I think the athletic trainers, the coaches, the parents have a lot more knowledge about what we're doing and how to help them. But I do agree with Molly that there's still a lot that doesn't get talked about, and there's not a lot of situations where the girls still feel uncomfortable bringing those up to maybe just a male coach in general.
Sara, Molly, I'm not sure who would want to answer this question, but what are some of the themes that you guys started to see rise in the book? Like I'm sure you went into it with a way that you wanted to structure it, the types of conversations that you wanted to have and the stories that you wanted to pull, but were there any themes like when all was said and done that really stood out to you guys?
Yeah, yeah, like Sara, you can add on to this, but we had 12 questions that we asked everybody. Julie, we asked them to you too, and the editor kind of hacked yours away to some, some workout tips. Oh, that was really, you guys, you need to check out the workout that Julie has in the book. It was like pretty crazy. And it was just centering around things like what would you do differently? What did you learn along the way in the sport? What was important to your success? What was rewarding? Kind of like really trying to get them to reflect on their journey in the sport and what, with an eye towards what would you tell a younger runner trying to do the same. And we did ask some workout details, a little bit of training details. And some of the themes that came up, like we didn't like with a lot of the stories were very different, but some of the themes that came up had some really similar threads running through them, just about how like the women didn't specialize in running really early. Like a lot of them tried other sports as well as running until they got later into high school or college even. Some women not even until after school, but that was a little more rare. But we paired that with like when we heard from the experts, that was actually supported there too. So, we do see some parents who maybe aren't aware, like they think if they want their kids to have success and run in college, they have to be like really focused really young. And so it almost was in distance running anyway, proving the opposite of that. So we thought that was an interesting one.
Wow.
That was like 90% of the women had that.
They weren't specializing early.
No, I mean they might run, but they were doing like all the other sports seasons too. Like they weren't just doing like junior worlds track, like prep type stuff.
That's interesting. Yeah, same question to you, Sarah. Anything that stood out themes wise?
Yeah, I think that specialization, I think one thing that, and part of the expert session kind of backed that up with like Adam 1040 did he did a bone health study, but found that in the 2002 and 2003 US championships, you were 50% with the men and women that made the final in the distance events, that they were 50% less likely to have a stress fracture in their career if they did not specialize or they played a ball sport growing up, any ball. So that was something that was like, wow. And then it was backed up by the amount of women that were in our book also. So like that didn't specialize too and had long careers. So we thought that was interesting. John Ball also backed that up, saying how important being overall athletic was. And even if you're not great at those things, to do those things, because it's going to help you help with injury prevention later on down the line. So making sure that you're not just one dimensional in those early foundational ages. So I thought that was a big one. I think another one was almost every girl, the nutrition part of that talked about how important fueling was, and getting their period, and how different the narrative was when girls were young. When we were in sport, you didn't get your period. The main like answer to that was taking birth control, and not actually fixing the what was causing the low energy. Like most likely it was low energy availability and not allowing your body to have enough fuel to produce a period. And so they would put you on birth control and just kind of use it as a way to take care of it, but it wasn't actually addressing why that was going on. So now they've changed that to like addressing the fueling issues and how important that is for the long-term health of you as a woman for later on when you're wanting to have babies and those things.
Starting to think this book was built so you guys would have a better pathway towards raising young women. Learned a lot. I mean, Molly, you must kind of think of that going into your firstborn, and you're having a girl that, all these lessons and things learn. And Sara, you have a young girl in Cali. Or did you guys pick up? I mean, it sounds like you're picking up stuff that maybe you already thought about and knew, like on how you wanted to raise your young girls, but has that shaped you?
Yeah, I think just watching my daughter's experience, like even with also like being a coach, like seeing my athletes and what they come to me with, like I want them to, I know like just how I had so many more opportunities than my mom did. Yet when we were talking about before, there just wasn't the knowledge there. And I definitely made mistakes later on in my career, not having being fully armed with the right knowledge. And so just helping her, guide her so that she has that, but also enjoys what she's doing. I think that was another underlying theme, that most of the girls in there really enjoyed what they were doing throughout their careers. And I think having that, not having those experiences where it derails you, like helps you to enjoy what you're doing long term. And so no matter, I think it, giving them experiences where they get to try everything, find what they're good at. I'm definitely not throwing her into running
Right.
right away. Like, I want her to, if that's not what she wants to do, we both know that the amount of just dedication and really uh, hard work that it takes to get to where, like, that top of the sport, you really have to have that internal drive. So that doesn't really come from me or my husband Steve. It has to come from her. And so I don't want to throw her into something that she doesn't really want, isn't enjoying, or doesn't really want to be doing also.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, I'm sure Kurt and Steve and I mean, I'm less of a runner than Kurt and Steve were, but they always hear your kids are going to run. I'm sure your kids are going to run. Are they running already? Since you guys were such great runners, that happens probably multiple times a week to you, right, Sarah?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially as a coach too, they're always asking, so you're gonna put when are they gonna start running? And
Right. What's their mile time? Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, we actually have the opposite. We're discouraging them from running.
Yeah. I like it. I like it.
Reverse psychology.
I love it. I mean, they'll ultimately, it makes
Yeah.
sense they would get into it, but yeah, there's no reason to push them early on. So you interviewed a number of women. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to make you choose. Tell me a couple. So tease us a couple of stories that stood out. Who were they? What were those stories? And I'll start with you, Molly, first.
Okay, we tend to pick the same ones, so I kind of want to
Okay.
try
All right.
and
And
find
Sarah, you
someone
can't
different.
pick. Yeah, you can't pick the same one she did.
I'll say it anyway though. We love the mother-daughter interviews that we did because it was just such a cool dynamic. And like so the ones that made it into the book were Shalane and her mom Cheryl,
Mm-hmm.
Torgy, and Ailish McColgan and her mom Liz, who also coaches her, as well as being, former world champion. So it was just a cool through line to see, like, the sport has come really far since their moms were in it, and their mothers were breaking barriers, like setting records and doing amazing things, but there was just some things still in their way, that the sport evolved, and they really helped shape their daughters into even better athletes than they were. So it's like that's what we're trying to do going forward with the book. So it was kind of cool to see that play out with those two. And it was just a fun dynamic to get them on the phone at the same time. Like, we were Zooming with them all at the same time. So those were really fun.
Love it. All right, Sarah. And again, the book is How She Did It. You can get it wherever books are sold. So go buy it now. If you're listening to this podcast, or listen to the podcast, then buy it. Sarah, a story from somebody who stood out to you when you guys were doing the book.
I really enjoyed kind of the pioneers in sport, but I think one of the cool ones was the steeple pioneer. I think we put Anne Gaffigan in there. There's a couple things with her story that stood out. One, and she was the first U.S. champion at the 2004 when it was an exhibition year for the steeple. She won the steeplechase and set an American record at the time. But she said, like, this is the first time I've ever felt like I was being held back as a woman, because she wasn't able to go to the Olympics that year, where it was already an event. And that we talk about the history of women's distance running, and it's really honestly, it's very young in terms of the events that have been women have been able to run. It wasn't until like 84 with the marathon. The steeple came in 2008. But what was cool is Anne also had the Steeple Chicks website. She started that Steeple Chicks website, had a lot of information on what the steeple was. At the time, they were trying to figure out the barrier height, how far the how far the pit should be for a woman, because the height was going to be different. If you're jumping, they have to jump the same distance as the men for the pit, which doesn't really make sense in terms of if you're coming at a lower angle going out, you can't jump as far. But she had that website, and Emma Coburn's parents would actually write her questions asking about the steeple as Emma was getting into the sport, and they became friends through her website. And then Emma went on to to have an amazing career. But it was like when Emma was just getting into the sport, her parents were really close to Anne, trying to get information on how to get their daughter into the event. So
That's
I
cool.
thought that was really cool. Just little how these women were shaping other women to really excel in our sport.
And you and your husband were steeplechasers, right? So it resonated well with you.
No, I actually didn't end up running the steeple. I wanted to, but it was the first year. The first year was my freshman year that they had the event in the NCAA. And I tore my plantar that season, so it didn't allow me to
Smart.
barriers.
Smart. Yeah.
But yeah, my husband was a steeplechaser, and I think I always admired the event, and wished I could have tried it, but I stuck to the flat.
Julie, did you or Molly ever run the steeplechase? Once,
No.
twice, ever? No. Julie,
Not
Molly?
me. I was always getting hurt, so
Same.
that scared
Same.
me too much.
Yeah, I had the same story as Sarah. I was supposed to do it at our spring opener,
Really?
and I broke my foot a few weeks before, and so my coach was like, "Well, you're not
No.
doing the steeple." But I thought it was cool. I was like, "Oh, that
Yeah.
event looks so fun."
And it was crazy that women didn't do it. Like when I was in college, women didn't do the steeple. Yeah. So
Crazy.
awesome. Well, I wanted to ask you guys about the state of currently of women's distance running, which is just unbelievable. Just within the last couple months, we've seen the American record be broken in the marathon. Molly's half marathon record broken by Sara. So Kira Diamato broke Dina's record in the marathon. Sarah Hall broke Molly's record in the half marathon. And then Molly's record in the 10K almost went down by Elise Cranny. I mean, and this is all within the last 2 months. These women right now, whew. I mean, I know, Molly, you're still in it, but I wouldn't want to compete against them. Goodness.
It's a good sign. Like, it's now getting to the point where to make Team USA you're a medal threat, which is what you want, from the women in your country or the athletes in your country. And, it's just the times are kind of taking off all over the place with like the new technology and stuff. But I think women too women athletes are embracing strength. They are getting that messaging. They are learning from each other, and kind of just like piggybacking off each other's like generationally. So that's kind of what you hope to see. That kind of I feel like means it's working. So encouraging. I can't imagine where it's going to be in the next 5 to 10 years.
And Sara, you're out there still coaching. You see, some performances by women. Can you believe it? How well, these women are running these days?
I think it's super encouraging. And I think, well, like Elise was one of the girls that in the book, but I think more, she's on the younger side, but even like with Kira and Sara, we're seeing like when I was retiring from running when I was 30, I thought that was I had a pretty good long career, but I think we're questioning, actually, I think it used to be in your late 20s, early 30s is where we thought you peaked, but now maybe that's even further than we thought. And I think now women are, they have more support. They're able to do this longer and see more women do that and have the resources to be able to do that. So I think maybe our peak is a lot later than we thought.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of cool.
That's amazing. So we just mentioned you are coaching, but you're winding down your coaching career. That must have been a really tough decision. So what's going on? What's next for you?
I think Julie can
We've
understand this,
talked
but
about this.
Oh,
Yeah.
we can understand
I
for
think
sure
Spent
the
some time.
decision.
I'm excited actually to take a breath this summer and not I think with coaching it's with our sport you're in season all 3 seasons,
Mhm.
and it's a really, you never have downtime. The only downtime you have is really in the summer, and during that time you should probably be recruiting and doing some like trying to catch up on that end. So you don't have a lot of time off. So I've been coaching the last 7 years. I'm excited to be involved. My kids are older and involved in a lot of activities, so I am going to be the soccer mom on the side for a little bit. Take a breath, get caught up on things that I've neglected at home. But it's going to be really hard. Like I've loved. I think the most special part is the relationship part with those athletes and seeing them like be able, having them trust me with their goals and what they want to do, and helping them to take those steps. Like that's the most fulfilling part of the job, and I'm going to miss that a lot. But I'm looking forward to having more time with my family and actually seeing my husband more than a day at a time.
We feel we understand. Would you get back? Is there a chance you would get back into it when your kids are older?
I don't know. Yeah, I would love to. I think we've talked about that. Maybe I think once they're older and I'm able to handle the like time commitment more, I think what I felt like right now is like I wasn't able to give enough time. The team needed more time for me, and my kids needed more time for me, and it was just the balance wasn't there. And so
And then Steve got nothing, I'm sure.
yes,
Like,
so
it's
I
the
was
kids, and then it's
exhausted
the
and trying
team.
to
Yeah. Like, get out of my way.
yeah, so yeah, for sure. I think it's something like it's probably one of the most fulfilling things I've done. And it's a very challenging job, but I've loved every minute of it.
Well, that's a big decision. Congrats on that. Molly, you're working out again. I mentioned earlier at Molly Huddle, you can see her reels. I didn't even know what reels were, but you've got like 5,000 people looking at your workout. So you're working out. Baby's coming soon. Are you done running? Have you announced that? Do you want to announce it now on our show? Like, what's going on?
Are you trying to end her career right
No,
here?
I'm not. No.
This
You
is
can't
a
get rid of
women's
me.
I want to break news if we can.
This is a women's empowerment book. We're
No,
not telling her
I'm
that
not
her life
pushing her
is
out.
over now that she's had
She's
children.
like one of the best runners ever. I'm not going to push her out. So what is going on?
Yeah, so I do intend to try to get back running. But I know I don't want to have any concrete goals just because it's such an unknown as far as like how things are going and the timeline. But and I'm still kind of dealing with like that injury that I got back in 2019. And like I tore a tendon in my ankle, so we're still kind of like rebuilding my foot mechanics and just working around things that aren't getting rebuilt. But should all that fall into place, I do want to do a fall marathon. So I have stuff like, ready to roll I want to go to 2024, just go through, try to make it to the Olympic trials, marathon trials for 2024. And I feel like that would have been really healthy, long amount of time to run, and then just run for fun after that. I probably will never. I like what Dina Caster did, where she never really retired. So that's the model I'm taking, where I'm gonna show up and do fun age group races and just kind of do what I want to do in the golden years and have fun with it.
And Saucony is still sponsoring you or supporting you throughout all this, right?
Yeah, through 2024, which is
Wow.
amazing. They do not discriminate against the older
Yeah, that's
athletes
awesome.
because they have myself, they have Melindy Elmore, they have a trail runner and a triathlete who are my age, and so yeah, they're very supportive.
That's awesome. Well, guys, I really appreciate the time. Everybody needs to go out and get the book. It's How She Did It: Stories, Advice, and Secrets to Success from 50 legendary distance runners. The authors, Sara Slattery, Molly Huddle. Great job, guys. Great to see you. Congratulations. It's amazing. You wrote a freaking book. It's pretty incredible. How many pages? How many pages is it, by the way?
It's like 350,
Wow.
but we could have kept on going.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
that was
awesome.
we would have had we had 80 interviews we wanted to have in the book, and it got chopped down to 50.
I
Wow.
saw nothing wrong with it. I was like, It'll be like a 10-pound book,
Is
so
there
why
is
not?"
there is there is there an audio version yet? Because I like to listen to books. I'm making it about
Yes.
me. There is
Yeah.
an audio
Yes,
version.
there
Okay.
is. Yes,
All
you'll
right.
hear our voices and then voices of many other
Awesome.
readers too.
Okay,
So
awesome.
cool.
So I'm going to go get that. And I'm sure you can get that on iTunes and all these other places. So again, wherever books are sold, How She Did It. Molly, Sara, great stuff. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Congrats on the book.
Thanks
Thanks,
so much
guys.
for having us.
All right, great to see you guys. There they go. Molly Huddle, Sara Slattery. They joined us on Pace the Nation. We're going to take a quick break and be right back after this.
Pace the Nation is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
All right, welcome back to the program. And thanks again to our guests, authors. I'm going to preface it with authors because they are authors.
It's a great new
I
byline.
know,
you
I know. You know, professional runners,
Mhm.
coaches, all that stuff, but authors in this context, it was Molly Huddle and Sara Slattery. They joined us on Pace the Nation. Great stuff. I could have said they're old friends of Julie. Not old. I mean, they're your age. You're not old. You
Are
know
you
what I'm
calling
saying?
us old?
No,
I
I'm
know.
not. No,
When
I'm
you
not.
said you're all around the age of 40, I felt like both of them were like, we're not 40 yet.
No, they definitely are. You can.
Are they?
There's
Wait, no, Molly's not 40 yet.
no, Molly's not. Sara
Sarah
is.
is.
Sara's
Yeah.
about a week difference. Your birthdays are about the same.
Yeah,
Almost exactly.
we're very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Yep.
it just feels different when you say it. It does.
Well,
But
Wikipedia has everything. You guys, you public figures, Wikipedia has everything. So
yeah, us public figures. No,
yes,
I do
correct.
miss them.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting like time of life as a pro athlete. Like you become really close with your competition. You become really close with the other people who you're kind of going through it with. Like
Mhm.
you're competing against each other, but you're also trying to build each other up and learn from each other. And so that world becomes really small. And then once you kind of leave that world, like Sara and I are in a different part of that world. And so we just don't cross paths as much. So it takes a lot more effort when you're living all the way across the country.
I'm super excited about the audio version of the book. I will get that. Can't wait to read it again. The book is wherever books are sold, How She Did It, Stories, Advice, Secrets, and Success from 50 Legendary Distance Runners. A lot of great stories of women and how this sport has changed.
Yeah.
I mentioned power run at the beginning. I was out with Kathy and Burke. They've been on the podcast before. They're the ones who started and are the owners of Empower Run. Man, that event, 125 women. I couldn't believe how much it's grown, and every sort of industry brand was there. It would just sound like an awesome event. So I'm glad I didn't interrupt your stay there with my parenting matters that I was attending to. So, but it was sound like an awesome event. So I just wanted to mention that and give them a little bit more pop. I know we've talked about them over the last couple episodes. All right, Julie, you've done a great job of really, I would say you're producing for the show.
Yeah.
Your guest
You
lineup.
run the show.
I know.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, should I even
Yeah,
hop in here? You got
I
the
know.
flow going.
I
But
know.
I'm the one who's carrying the show
You
in the background.
carry the show
It's
with your
kind of like this
guests.
metaphor for our relationship,
Yeah, I know. We've got some
Who's doing
really,
all the work and who's taking all the credit?
uh, we've got some really exciting guests coming up too. Some heavy hitters in the industry that are coming up. So I'm really excited about that.
We just had 2 heavy hitters.
We did. More heavy hitters coming. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to try to get her in studio. We're going to work on my video now that the sun is sort of finally shaded here a little bit.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll
Yeah.
call like next day blinds or something, have that
Yeah.
all hooked up
Yeah.
by next
By the
next
time you can,
episode.
yeah. And, last thing, I wonder, if our guests like think to ask that nobody's ever asked. And I've thought about this every single episode that we've done in the new year here. Does anybody like wonder what the heck that is behind me? Like, why is there a picture of your face behind you?
No, just
No-
like I'm
no
an
one
egomaniac
asks.
for naming my son Julian. Like
Right.
you have to build yourself up with these heavy
No one
hitters. Let
asks.
them know that you're important. So if you have a big, humongous caricature of yourself behind you, like, wow, that guy, I don't know why he has a caricature, but he
Yeah.
must have
Yeah,
done
let me
something
ask.
cool.
Yeah.
Little did
And
they know it was just like you running a sub 3 hour
Yeah.
marathon.
and we got some fathead company to do it for us. But anyways, insecure much? Guess not. All right. Great show, Julie.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. There she is, Julie Culley. Thanks to Chris behind the scenes. Great stuff. Thanks to you, the listener. It's been a great show. Our guests today were Molly Huddle, Sara Slattery. The book, again, go get it right now. Go out. Stop what you're doing after this episode and go get the book right now. The book is How She Did It, Stories, Advice, and Secrets to Success from 50 Legendary Distance Runners. Molly and Sara join us on Pace the Nation. All right, I'm Chris Farley. This is Pace the Nation. We will see you next time.